captioned State of Kansas versus Tyler Blakley. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
Your Honor, Zahi Omari, Assistant District Attorney, appears on behalf of the state.
May it please the court, Your Honor, Tyler Blakley appears via Zoom and with his counsel, Mark Berry, via Zoom.
All right. We are here set down for a plea today. Here's what I've been advised before we came on the record. Mr. Blakley is going to be pleading to possession of marijuana, a Class B misdemeanor, and possession of, what was the other substance, Mr. Omari?
Alprazolam, Xanax.
Okay, I'm going to call it Xanax because possession of Xanax, a Class A misdemeanor, that the parties are going to want to waive pre-sentence investigation, proceed right to sentencing today. And the parties are going to be recommending to the court a 12-month sentence on the Class A in jail, a 6-month sentence on the Class B to be run concurrently, probation to be granted for 12 months to adult court service with a specific term that Mr. Blakley receive a substance abuse evaluation and follow the recommendations. Do I have that all right, Mr. Omari?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Mr. Berry?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Blakley, I just got to ask you a few questions to take this up. You know that you don't have to change your plea from one of not guilty to guilty today. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you wanted to maintain not guilty plea, you would have a right to a trial and all of the rights that go along with that trial. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
If you went to trial and got convicted, you could appeal that conviction. And if you didn't have money to do that, a lawyer would be appointed to do it for you. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the parties are making recommendations to me about sentencing today. And I'm going to listen very closely to what everybody has to say about it. But I'm not bound by any negotiations, and I can give you any legal sentence that the law allows me to. You understand that?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. Do you have any questions for me about any of this?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Berry, do you know any legal reason why your client should not enter into this plea today?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right. Then I'll ask you, Mr. Blakley, as to count one, the possession of marijuana, a Class B misdemeanor, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, Your Honor.
As to count two, the possession of Xanax, a Class A misdemeanor, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to ask Mr. Omari to tell me what he thinks the state's evidence would be if this went to trial. I want you to listen closely because when he's done, I'm going to ask you if that's what happened, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Omari.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were this to go to trial, the evidence would show that on January 9th of this year, a police officer of the Edwardsville Police Department was traveling northbound on I-435 from K32 in Edwardsville, Wyandotte County, Kansas. She observed a silver 2004 Ford Explorer traveling in front of her with a defective tag light, and she initiated a traffic stop. Once she went up to the driver door of the vehicle, she identified the driver as a defendant in this matter, Tyler Blakley, who made the spontaneous statement that she may find some marijuana in the vehicle. She conducted a search based on that statement, as well as the odor of marijuana emanating from the vehicle, and discovered a backpack. That backpack, the defendant said was his post Miranda, and within that backpack, there was marijuana and Xanax.
All right, Mr. Blakley, is that what happened?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I will find the defendant has freely, voluntarily, and intelligently entered into this plea. He knows the nature of the charges and the consequences of the plea. The state has provided a sufficient factual basis for a finding of guilt. And the defendant has acknowledged that factual basis. I will therefore find him guilty of the Class B misdemeanor possession of marijuana, the Class A misdemeanor of possession of Xanax. My understanding, as I stated earlier, parties are prepared to waive pre-sentence investigation, proceed to sentencing today. Given that, Mr. Omari, any comments upon sentencing?
Your Honor, I would just say that the parties negotiated this plea in good faith and would request that you adopt the joint recommendation.
Mr. Barry?
Judge, I would go ahead and indicate that that is the agreement between the state and my client. I would also like to indicate that he is gainfully employed right now, so he'll be able to pay off his fines and costs in a reasonable time frame, Judge. We would like to ask that in the order itself, Judge, that I know it's a courtesy of Leavenworth County, but if it's in the order, I found that they would be a little bit more accepting that it can be transferred. He does understand that they have to accept it. It's not a felony, so they don't have to take it. If not, Judge, then we'd ask that in addition to that, he be allowed to report by phone.
All right. Mr. Blakley, anything you want to tell me before I pronounce sentence today?
No, sir, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to follow the plea agreement, and I am going to order for the Class A misdemeanor of possession of Xanax that Mr. Blakley be sentenced to 12 months in the county jail here in Wyandotte County. For the other count B, I'm sorry, possession of marijuana, a Class B misdemeanor, he'll be sentenced to 6 months in the county jail. Those sentences are ordered to run concurrently with one another. He will be granted probation to adult court services for a period of 12 months. And a specific term of that probation be that he obtain a substance abuse evaluation, follow the recommendations thereof. Mr. Omari, I would like you to put in the order that the court approves transfer of supervision to Leavenworth County if they accept. And I really don't have a position on the phone in. I don't, I've never added that to an order, and I don't know that probation, they might kick back on it just because they don't believe that I have the authority to approve that. Frankly, between doing UAs and all that, I try and stay out of probation's way. So I'm not going to comment on the call-in requirements. I'm going to leave that up to either Wyandotte or Leavenworth County, wherever he ends up. Costs, misdemeanor court costs, misdemeanor supervision fee are assessed. Mr. Blakley, will you be able, if you pay $50 a month towards that, you'll get it paid off before your probation's up. Can you do that?
Yes, sir. Not a problem.
All right, then I'm going to order a payment plan of $50 a month.
I can pay that off early, correct?
That would always help.
Okay.
And you can always talk to your officer after you get things paid off about whether they will approve early termination or not.
Okay.
I usually, again, leave that up to them. Some are more willing to do it than others. You'll just have to see. All right.
I understand.
All right. Folks, have I failed to cover anything today? Mr. Omari?
Nothing comes to mind, Judge.
Mr. Barry?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to jump off our live stream here in a second.